I'm Emily. So, would you care to introduce yourself, your role in the band, and maybe a fun fact about yourself?
The fun fact is going to be tough because I don't I'm inherently self-deprecating. But yeah, my name's Chris Kelly. I am the singer for a band called Hillhaven. Um, like I said, yeah, the fun fact is gonna is gonna be tough because that requires me to say something
It could be
nice or something
anything.
that I think is interesting.
It could be anything. Funny, interesting, weird, and you name it.
Oh boy. Um, I play for a band I can't talk about. I guess that's a fun fact,
The
you know.
anonymous band we don't speak of.
Yeah. Let's just go with that because otherwise we're going to be here all day.
That's fair. I don't blame you. All right, so on to the questions. So recently you shared a new single titled Say My Name, and dude, I would just want to say your vocals were absolutely incredible, and how
Thank you.
dare you hit us with that bleh? I was not expecting that. Like, a funny story, so I was driving to my boyfriend's house yesterday because we were going to a show. So I was like,
Hmm.
Chris put out a new song, let's listen to it, and I almost swerved off the road once the breakdown hit because of how good it was. But
Well, I'm glad you're still alive, but I'm glad that
yeah, it was raining a
elicited a good
little.
reaction.
Yeah, I wish I recorded it. It would have been so funny. But anyways, what inspirations drew you to this writing the song? Like, is there a message you want fans to take away from this?
I mean, you know, I I tend to like to kind of leave things relatively open to interpretation because I think that's just that's how I also hate that phrase because it sounds so like it's an art thing, man. Like I don't know, but it's just like I think uh being able to find something in a song that you can relate to your own life is an important thing as a listener, and so like I tend not to uh like harp on what the song was about for me or whatever. But I mean, ultimately, it's just like covering. The simplest way that I can put it is just like predatory business practices. I mean, I think a lot of us have dealt with something where it's like a boss or an owner of a store that you work at or whatever who just has has kind of a maybe more selfish or narrow-minded um, approach to things, and who will kind of exploit the labor of the people that work around or underneath them, and maybe employ some kind of intimidation factor to anybody who might speak up, and just like people who take advantage of other people, in a position of relative power. You know what I mean? So it's kind of just a big kind of big fuck you to that kind of vibe, you know.
I love that.
But yeah, it's like I said, I try my best to let people kind of listen and just if they can relate to it, then cool. Or if they just think it's a cool song, then great. Or if they hate it, then fine. It's okay. you know.
Yeah, I really love that because a lot of artists, like, I like when artists leave it very open and they read the lyrics and then they go into like, okay, what does this really mean? What is the message? And I just like how people can interpret it on their own. Like, when I listened to it, I had like that same sensation, like a fuck you message basically, and being
Hmm.
in a toxic area. So like I like that a lot. So I've noticed with the track, you kind of like, I don't know if I'm just like deaf, but you kind of take a different approach to your vocals. Like, I noticed like at the beginning before the riff started, you had like little synthy vibe with it.
The
So
vocoder stuff. Yep.
yeah, so like what made this track sound differently than other Hillhaven songs?
Well, I mean, this was the first song that I started working on after the last rollout finished up. Um, and so I think, there was probably a number of things of, like stuff that had already sort of been covered and wanting to not, tread entirely similar ground. And, but also just being a little bit more comfortable in a vocalist position. because that, this is a new thing for me, fronting a band. So especially on the first round of material, I think maybe there was a bit of a mental block when it came to like adding any type of charisma or like kind of rocking it up. You know what I mean? It was a little bit difficult. Like I was mainly just trying to deal with the thing that I think a lot of people have, where is that they don't really love the sound of their own voice. So I was focused on trying to get past that, and so I didn't really have a chance to focus on more subtle inflections and things like that. And Yeah, I don't know. I think ultimately it was just kind of a like a timing thing of feeling a little bit more comfortable and secure in the decisions that I was making, and the direction that the band could go in, and with it being a heavier song in general, but still wanting to keep it pretty accessible. There was definitely, like, I had to get a little bit more creative with it in terms of like how to match the vibe of the instrumentation without just going to screaming as a default kind of thing. You know what I mean? So it sort of forced me out of my comfort zone a little bit, and or I guess forced me to find a new one rather.
I love that for you, and I love the confidence that you're gaining from that. Because me, I absolutely hate my voice. I hate hearing myself in videos, especially if I'm at a show. So like being able to get out of that comfort zone and try new things and overcome that fear, like I like that for you a lot. And I will say
Right.
I could hear it in your voice, and it's like more passionate. So I'm all here for that. So were there any musical influences that helped shape the sound? Were there specific like artists or albums that kind of inspired the creation?
Yeah, I mean, I don't think there's going to be a metalcore fan in the world who would hear the beginning of that song and not think Architects. So I can't deny that that was definitely a big influence. Wage War was another one with like the super
Yeah,
low tuning
I could hear
stuff.
that. Yeah.
Particularly their newest record, which was just a fantastic effort from them. Memphis Mayfire was a band that I had was super late to the game on, and started listening to their stuff and really enjoyed it. And so yeah, just uh getting into, because I had gotten a another guitar that I hadn't messed with yet, and so I tried putting it into a like a super low tuning that I wasn't used to writing in. And That definitely took a bit to kind of get used to and figure out what I could do with it that didn't sound like horribly derivative. Some people may disagree with me on whether or not it's horribly derivative, but yeah, I think. And then, I mean, Bring Me has always been a big one, or especially recently, which I can't remember if I've mentioned it in a like an interview capacity before, or if I've just talked about it privately. But it's not really necessarily a stylistic thing, but just more of the fact that there's a clear attention to detail on like every section of the songs for that band.
Yeah.
Where it's not really like that, you can tell that like they put a lot of effort into the chorus, and then the verses are just kind of there. Like they kind of treat every section like it's its own hook, basically.
Oh yeah,
And so
100%.
that's something that I wanted to kind of explore and sort of test myself and see if I was able to do relatively well.
That's awesome. And all those bands, they're absolutely phenomenal. Bring Me the Horizon though, I could see what you mean with like they make their own individual parts like stand out from each other. So that's really cool with the direction that you kind of were inspired by. So
Hmm.
excuse me, my voice is
That's all
so
right.
the music video, correct me if I'm wrong. His name is JT. Is it Ibanez?
Ibanez. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Ibanez. So like the guitar brand.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes, yeah.
So he did an amazing job with the visuals with the music video. So what was like the overall theme you wanted fans to visualize? Because I know this was like it was like more moodier. There's more silhouettes, like that type of vibe. So like, how does it complement the song's meaning in a way?
Yeah, well, I don't know. I don't necessarily know that there was um, a heavy emphasis put on like this has to encompass what the song means. I just think that the vibe was the focus for this one. We did a few videos with him, other ones that'll be coming out later this year. And, uh, you know, with the exception of one, they were largely kind of performance based. And so it was really just kind of focused on, like the brainstorming process was just kind of like, what do we want it to look like? What do we want the vibe to be, as opposed to like, oh, this is how we fit the theme of the song or whatever. And that's for two reasons. One, because, time and budgets and all that kind of stuff. It would be great to, turn a music video into a Marvel movie, but we're not there yet. But the other thing is that just like, again, this is all something that's pretty new to me, aside from, I've always been pretty solid at writing instrumental stuff, but being a frontman, being the, kind of face and head of the project. And so I don't feel quite comfortable in the director's seat, for lack of a better term. Obviously Juan directed the videos, but point being like, being the guy to like, from start to finish, the whole like aesthetic vision and all that kind of stuff. Like I don't really feel like I've honed in that skill set yet. So I didn't want to come in with like some big elaborate, like, oh, here's how the video is going to play out in the storyline and like all this kind of stuff. I just don't necessarily think it would have gone well. And also like, it didn't hit me until after the video was done, but that the way that this video looks is kind of how I had hoped that our Temple and Tomb music video would look last year. Now, the thing about the videos last year, I had to edit them myself. I had a lot of help on set from Adam Reed, who plays in Ice Nine Kills and Hawk, who's a really good videographer. And he was very generous with his time and his lighting equipment and all kinds of stuff to kind of get us rolling. But I was and am still self-funded. So I didn't have the budget, or I wasn't willing to put forth the budget really to hire somebody of Juan's skill level last year, because I was like, I don't know what's going to happen with this. I don't know if I can spend, this many thousands of dollars on getting a video done. So I'm just going to try to do it as much by myself as I can. So, and I mean, I am proud of how the videos turned out last year. But there were, I think Sycophants, I'm pretty satisfied with that one, but with Gaps and Temple and Tomb, those are the three that I had edited myself and used some of my own equipment for and stuff. And while I am proud of how those came out, and I think that they're decent videos, like there were definitely things that I saw in my head that didn't show up on the screen because I had no idea how to get them there. You know what I mean? Whereas, I can give an idea to Juan and say, like, I'm kind of thinking something that looks like this. And then he'll take it and be like, okay. And he'll do something that winds up actually being fairly different in approach from what I had kind of seen in my head, but that winds up being a good thing, right? It's like, oh, he had a different idea and it was better, as opposed to like, no, that's not what I wanted, So letting him kind of take the wheel on that was really important. We actually have a behind the scenes video that's coming out later today. So there'll be a little bit more of a look into that, but letting him kind of take the creative reins on that and kind of giving up that control, I think was really important. And there were shots that didn't make it too. Like there was a whole set of shots where I was wearing a completely different outfit, and those were based on ideas that I had, where it was like a totally black background and all this kind of stuff. And then when we did the shots in front of the video wall and all the silhouetting and stuff, like all of us just kind of were like, yeah, these other shots just they're not nearly as good. It just doesn't work. So we wound up scrapping them and redoing some of them to fit the vibe a little more. So yeah, like that was, as far as the video approach for everything that we're putting out this year, it was very much just trying to let other opinions be heard and kind of relinquish control to the expert that I hired.
Always leave it to the professionals. That's all I say. Like with me,
right?
I help my friend on set with some music videos too, and just the crazy amount of stuff that the band would throw would be like, oh, I want this, this, and this, and that. But we're like, oh, instead of all this, because we're going to be stuck here even just all day, we're just gonna shift it over, try this out and see how it is. And also, you editing, not gonna lie, I thought like a professional was doing all that editing, because you did a great job with
Oh,
like
well, thank
Temple
you. I
too.
appreciate it.
Like I loved all of that for you. So that was all great. So with the recording process with everything, so I know you also play guitar, and I know you're also the vocalist. So what does your recording process typically look like? Do you usually write the guitar parts and bring them to the band for extra collaborations, or is there like specific gear, pedals, and plugins that you like to use when recording?
So all of the writing, recording, mixing, production, everything is just done by me. Because I'm on the road so much in any given year, I have like that's the area where I am very comfortable in terms of like I know what I'm after. I know how to get the sound. If I don't quite know how to get the sound, I know the different processes that I could go through to try to find it. That's my element, right? So, I do record all of the guitars. I actually did have Jamie do live bass on the material that's coming out this year, which has been cool because he's an engineer as well. But I would write and program the part and then send it his way, and he would redo it live and then send it over. So, but yeah, all the production and mixing and stuff is just done on my little mobile rig with my laptop and stuff like that because I need to be able to do things from a hotel room if I have to, or a bus lounge or whatever. Um, as far as like gear and stuff, like again, it all needs to be very mobile. So yeah, it's all like amp sims and drum libraries and things like that. I've stopped like it's not that I don't have go-to plugins, but I don't really put a lot of emphasis on like, oh, it has to be this. It's just kind of like I'll plug the guitar in and cycle through a couple of things, and if I find one that like sounds sort of like what I might be going for, then I'll just roll with that. And it usually winds up like I don't really demo anything with this band. Like obviously there are ideas that get put down and then scrapped or changed or whatever, but like I don't have like, oh, here's the demo like of the song's final arrangement and then we have to go in and re-record it. Like by the time I'm finished arranging the song is done. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Wow, you are really busy. You do all that. I could never. So like to add
It's
on.
easy. It's just it feels easier for me. Like I have my workflow and I don't like not that I wouldn't trust the opinions of the other guys in the band. Like I have like sent unfinished things and been like I'm kind of having trouble with this one section and somebody might give a suggestion or something like that. But like in general, just having fewer cooks and just and also I mean it's been like I sort of mentioned, it's been like a nice challenge for myself, somebody who traditionally or historically hasn't really spent a lot of time writing on the vocal side of things. So I'm just kind of constantly seeing where I can push myself to. So it's not so much like a nobody can touch this, it's mine. It's more just like it'd be cool to have a song like this. I wonder if I can do it. You know
Yeah,
what I mean?
like challenging yourself in a way as like an artist and musician on top of that too. That's really interesting though. Like I love how you put in your own visions and try to bring that all to life, and just doing that all by yourself, obviously with the help sometimes with the other guys. Like that's great. A lot of artists, like a lot of people that I know that make music, they always were struggling and did not know like where to start, where to finish, like what to add. Like it's always interesting hearing how people do the whole writing process. So to add on to my previous question though, is there like a specific order you follow when making music? Like do you start with the lyrics first and then the instrumentals, or vice versa, or is it mainly just spontaneous and just go with the vibe that fits?
I mean, I guess the last part would probably be the best way to describe it. But I mean, being a guitar player first, like the music has historically come first to some degree anyway. Like, um, sometimes I'll have some kind of groove idea in my head and I'll put it down in a voice note, or I'll have a melody idea that I just sing into a voice note or something like that. But a lot of times it's just me plugging the guitar in and messing around until something kind of feels cool. So like, it's just, yeah, I guess the last option is probably what I would go with, just because like it doesn't have to be one specific thing, but typically music, or at least a good chunk of the music, comes first. I'll try to get like from the intro through the chorus sorted out on the instrumental side of things, and then I'll write the lyrics and the vocals for the chorus, so that I can that kind of gives me a better idea of like the direction that the song is going to go in, and then I kind of build everything out from there. That's kind of what the process has become recently, but it just depends.
Okay, yeah, that makes sense. That totally makes sense. So next question. So as Hillhaven steps into the new era, so I always ask this with artists. So does Say My Name continue like a certain narrative from like your previous releases? Like, is there like any connection or evolution in any story being told? Like,
No, there's no kind of like concept, like there's no concept album kind of thing going on. I mean, like there's certainly going to be some similar feelings and stuff that are being conveyed across songs, because for the most part, what I've discovered is that the only way that I'm relatively satisfied, or it's more accurate to say like I don't feel like my lyrics are entirely stupid, is if I'm not trying to be super metaphorical about things. If I'm just being a little bit more blunt and like drawing from like actual experience, instead of this song is from the perspective of somebody who's gone through something that I haven't, kind of thing. Like I don't really have, or I don't feel like I have a good enough ability to write that way. So there's definitely going to be overlap, like emotional overlap for sure. But yeah, it's not like, oh, this ties into the song from last year or anything like that. Like there's each song is its own thing. I just kind of I focus on finishing that as its own work, and then when that's done, I inevitably feel like, oh God, what if that was the last good thing that I have? And then eventually I have another idea, and then the whole process starts over.
your brain's all over the place. Okay.
Yeah.
That's great though. Like all your songs do, like they were hands down, like I remember getting like the press release when my publication first started. I was like, Hillhaven, Chris, what the hell? And like, dude, since then you've been killing it. Like instrumentally
Thank
and
you.
vocally, like I was never expecting you to take on the role as a vocalist. Like that very
Most people that know me were not expecting that either. I guess I wasn't. I didn't go into it thinking like, oh yeah, like this is.
like it was
It
like
wasn't something that I like had planned for a long time. It just kind of came together and made sense.
that's so fair. So you just announced like you had a new lineup change. You added Zach. How do you pronounce his last name? Moiser.
Mosier.
Mosier. I would not have
I
known.
know it's tough because the I comes before the S. I know. I went through the same thing.
Okay. Okay. And Chris, is it LaPlante or LaPlante?
LaPlante.
LaPlante. So you just recently announced that you brought both of those guys into the lineup for the new era. So how has the band's dynamic evolved since, like, both creatively and personally? Like, how did your paths initially cross? I know you and Zach's band in I can't pronounce. Oh my god, I can't pronounce.
Another hard one.
In
Inimical Drive. Yeah.
yeah, you got. I know you guys did like that collaboration together. He's the drummer of that band too. Right?
Hmm.
So like, how did you guys all like cross paths with each other? And has they brought, like, I know you said you mentioned you do a lot of the stuff like by yourself and then pitch idea, like show everyone later on. So like,
Hmm.
did they bring any like fresh perspectives while joining? Like, how did you guys just all meet up and like?
There's no way to say no without sounding like demeaning or something. You know what I mean? Like it's not taking anything away from them, but the fact of the matter is the songs were written before they were part of it. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
I had finished the lineup of songs before we had solidified them as members. But so Zach and I have been touring together for a number of years now. I did a year straight of touring with him during the Trinity of Terror cycle. He works for Motionless. He's their drum tech and their stage manager. And then he last year was last year and I think the year before, right? No, just last year, or maybe late the year before. It doesn't matter. At some point, he was also the drum tech for the gig that I play for primarily for my income, and he so he and I have had a rapport for a long time, just very similar mindsets of things. He and the singer of Inimical Drive are kind of the team that sort of runs that whole project, and so he and I are very much kind of kindred spirits in that regard in terms of like how we think about things, how we approach things. He's a very good presence to have around because it's very difficult for him it takes a lot for him to get upset, like visibly upset. So he's always somebody that can kind of keep the vibe like chilled out and like keep everybody in good spirits and stuff if things start getting stressful at any point. And LaPlante is he and I actually auditioned for the same gig for like 4 years ago or so, and wound up working together on the same crew. And so we were working together there for a while, and then went separate ways, but we always kept in touch. And then we connected. I live in Pennsylvania, and he had started dating somebody from Pennsylvania, and he was in town one time, and we decided to, my wife and I, and then he and his girlfriend decided to just go get dinner together. And so, he and I caught up a bunch and started talking and whatever. And I just, I had already, at that point, I had already been pretty sure that there was going to be a change that needed to happen. And so I kind of floated the idea by both of them, kind of expecting that they weren't going to be interested, not because that they, not because they, didn't like it or anything, but just that, I mean, we're all in our 30s and people need to work. And, like if Hillhaven gets a good tour offer, I'm going to have to likely make a decision where like I might have to choose that over income for that period of time, because it's, the effort to grow the thing that I started, right? Whereas I don't feel comfortable asking somebody else to do that, so, I'm always hesitant to ask anybody, like historically, to be involved in this. Even when we started it with the last group of guys, I was really surprised that they said yes too, just because, I can't expect anybody to, potentially have to prioritize something that I'm doing over something that, pays their bills, so, but I was pleasantly surprised, that these two, said yes. And they also, them being in the music world for so long and primarily being on the crew or technician side of things, I know that they've both wanted to be like they want to play, and like they love the jobs that they have, and they're very successful and very good at those jobs. But they also would love an opportunity to play. And I mean, whether or not I'll be the one to give them that opportunity ultimately remains to be seen. But I really wanted. I wanted a group of dudes who was going to, get along and be similarly motivated and but also have experience in those areas, so that it's not like, anybody's holding someone's hand or, babysitting or showing them the ropes, or, nobody's making stupid mistakes on the road. And then, the other guys who have been on tour be like, yeah, never do that, just trying to avoid all of those kind of little pitfalls and stuff. So, there's a number of reasons that sort of brought us all together, but the group dynamic has been really, really positive. So stoked about it.
That's so amazing. And I'm glad that you're in a position where you have those who understand like how it all works, because they've, like you said, they've been through it all. So like that's amazing to know that like you don't have to really be like so dependent like to teach someone, like you mentioned before, like holding the hand. So it's always good that you have people who know what they're doing. and it's just also they enjoy it. I like the vibe. It seems like very more positive, very more like motivational in a way. So like I love that. That's so sweet. So we're gonna shift our questions over to the band's origin and also talk a little bit about Christmas Burns Red, if that's okay with you.
Sure. Yeah.
So, wow, my throat again. I'm sorry. So since the band's public announcement last year, you've released a bunch of tracks since your debut. So how has that journey of consistent releases shaped your growth and connection with your audience?
Sorry, that was a lot of words. Repeat that again.
I'll slow it down. I'll slow it down. So since you guys formed last year, you've released a bunch of tracks nonstop. So like how has that journey of being very consistent, like how has it shaped your growth and connection with your fans?
Okay. So, yeah, I mean, last year was a lot of throwing darts at the wall and seeing what stuck. As far as like stylistic approaches was concerned. I do still very much like the idea of, using a band like A Day to Remember as sort of a North Star in terms of just the fact that they can just sort of do whatever they feel like doing and it doesn't, bring their career to a dead stop at any point. But there definitely is like look, there's no hiding that this project has a certain focus on accessibility and radio appeal and things like that. I've been writing music for a long time. Primarily the stuff that I've written in the past has been with another band that I'm involved with, which is called Illustrium. That's all like technical death metal and all kinds of stuff. And so it is very much, not the mainstream vibe. Right. And so while obviously I do enjoy the music that I'm writing and have been putting out with all this kind of stuff, and it does feel personal and, have a connection to it and stuff, there also is an element of marketability. Right.
Mm-hmm.
So that being said, going into this year or starting to put together the music that would be, the body of work that we're going to be putting out this year, was the first thing was kind of taking inventory of what worked and what didn't work last year. Surprisingly, and I say this not because I like certain things less than other things, but just because the internet is the internet and I just expected somebody to hate it. We haven't really gotten any comments like that. Like, there've been a couple of like, oh yeah, not my thing, but sounds good. And like, maybe one comment of like, this is bad, like whatever, but nothing memorable, nothing where it's like, oh, we put out this one song and suddenly the comments flooded in of like, what's this bullshit? Never really gotten the hate. And the same thing goes for Christmas Burns Red, the response that we got from the crowd, despite the fact that I had overused my voice days before that and didn't perform nearly as well as I was hoping to. The reaction was overwhelmingly positive, and I mean to the point where we didn't get a single negative comment or whether in person or on the internet or anything. So that's all been pleasantly surprising. But you can still look at numbers, right? So you can look at what streamed the best. You can look at what videos got the most views or the most engagement. You can look at, we had 3 songs in rotation on Octane last year. Two of which were in rotation for just 1 month, and then one of which got rotation for over 2 months. So obviously the guys at Octane liked that one more, right?
Mm-hmm.
Or else they wouldn't have kept it in. And clearly the listeners must have liked it more, or else they wouldn't have kept it in. So, and surprisingly and unsurprisingly, the songs that streamed the best were the heavier ones. The songs that were the most appealing on YouTube and on radio stations were the more accessible ones.
Mm-hmm.
So, I think our two biggest streaming songs are Temple and Tomb and Sycophants, and I think This Time Tomorrow is close behind those two.
They're
so
all great.
yeah, Sycophants did the best on social media, as far as I understand it. Um, Temple and Tomb definitely did the best on streaming, and This Time Tomorrow did the best on YouTube and had the most time on the radio. So all of that considered, like it was a question of like how do we pull those three groups into the same area, so the as far as the shaping of the connection with the fans and the different demographics and stuff like that, it's become pretty clear that there's a few kind of different sections of the people that have been interested in our music, and now the sort of larger goal is finding a way to kind of bring all of that to one spot.
I love the positivity with that, and especially like being in the crowd for Christmas Brings Red since I was with you guys.
Right.
Like I've seen so many fans in the crowd like so hyped up. I think I saw someone even tearing up from like hearing how amazing you all sound and how you all were grouped together, having the time of your life. And it was honestly so sweet. And I remember getting bonked in the head because some guy crowd was like doing the whole crowd killing
Oh
thing. So
yeah, the crowd surfing is the crowd activity is a young man's game, that's for sure.
but like it's just so sweet hearing all the positivity and the fact like you guys were on Octane's rotation for a while. Like I like my friend's band, like they just started out, not like they didn't start out, but their one of their songs is now they just entered on Octane's rotation. So like that's crazy to see like the growth in the fan base just being so supportive, and to the haters like who gives a shit what they think, honestly. But
I'm just surprised there weren't more. I just thought that, again, the internet's the internet,
yeah,
so like
algorithm and all
people are gonna
that.
try. I haven't checked Reddit, and I'm not gonna, because that's probably where all the haters are.
Reddit's cursed.
But yeah, like I don't know. I was expecting a lot more. I have the other guys monitoring the socials for me. I handle the YouTube channel, um, and I don't know. I've always been surprised that we're not getting more, because like when I was growing up, dude, like every YouTube video had at least one comment of someone being like, kill yourself, what I mean? Like, so
Yeah.
I expected one, but we haven't gotten anything that was, like utter distaste for what we were doing. Like the worst that we've had is just somebody being like, yeah, it's not totally my thing, but like the mix is great, you know what I mean? Like there's even like a compliment that comes along with it, so like it's like, I mean, that's about as good of a performance as I could ask for something new.
That's so sweet. I love that. So on to my next question. So we're gonna talk a little bit about the previous lineup. So
Mm.
concerning you guys formed in 2024, you had members of From Ashes to New and Ice Nine Kills. So like, what sparked the idea to come together and create Hillhaven? Like, was there like a specific moment where you just kind of like woke up and you're like, I want this, like, I want these guys here. Like, we would be such a great fit. Like, how did you guys all, like, come across each other to even form it in the first place?
It definitely was not. I didn't just wake up with some plan that I thought was ingenious. I had written a song which wound up being the song "Gaps" that we released last year. I had written that for a different band, and that band wound up not using it, but I had their singer on it. And I had sent the song to Maddie, thinking, maybe I could, because I did some writing for From Ashes to New on their Blackout record, and he's plenty connected, and so I just figured, maybe there's somebody that he knows that would want the song, or maybe the manager would like it and try to give it to somebody, whatever. Like I didn't really know what the idea would be, but I had the song done, um, and when I sent it to him, he basically was like, "Are you like, is this going to be your project? Are you doing this?" And I was like, I mean, it could be, I guess." And he was like, "Well, I mean, I would drum for it if you wanted somebody." And so I was like, "Okay, sick." And so then the gears started turning at that point, and I was like, "Well, if we can get somebody like Maddie, then who else can we get?" Basically, and he recommended Jimmy, because Jimmy had started playing with them. And I asked Ricky, and he was pretty enthusiastic about it, which, again, very surprising. I mean, Ricky and I have been very good friends for a very long time, but he's super busy and constantly overworks himself. And so I wasn't expecting him to really be interested in the idea or have time for it. And he was into it. And we did have another bass player lined up originally, and that wound up kind of falling apart right before, very shortly before the first video shoots. So it was kind of very last second. Jamie has been a friend of mine for, I mean, over a decade now, and a similar sentiment to what I mentioned about Zach and LaPlante, just kind of feeling like, like always recognizing that like that dude's got something and it would be cool if he had a shot. And again, that doesn't mean that I'm going to give them the shot. It's just like, well, I hope this thing can do well, and it would be nice if somebody else got to benefit from that too, that I thought deserved it. So I hit him up last minute and was just like, yo, can you learn 3 songs in like 2 days and just be in Lancaster to come do these videos? And he was like, yeah, I mean, I guess, but like, who's singing on this? And I was like, that's me. He's like, wait, what? And I was like, yeah, we'll talk about it later. And he was like, who else is in it? And I was like, it's Ricky and Maddie and whatever. And he was like, what? Okay. Like, so he just kind of got thrown into the mix with everything, and he's done a great job. And obviously he's the one that's still here. So he hasn't fucked it up yet. Good for him. But no, and that's not to say that any of the other guys fucked anything up. They certainly did not. Luckily, we haven't really gotten any. I haven't gotten any comments, as far as I know, of people, thinking that there's some kind of drama or whatever. Look, we made it. We the whole project, as I said, was kind of throwing a dart at the wall, right? And we did that with 5 people, 4 of which have full-time touring schedules.
Yeah.
Inevitably, there was going to be a hiccup somewhere.
Yeah,
and
definitely.
It just happened to be that this year, my only window where I could shoot music videos was right in line with when 2 of the guys were going to be on tour. One guy was just about to leave for tour. Ricky is doing a lot with Hawk this year.
Oh yeah, he's popping off.
Yeah, and because like they put out a song called Mileage however many years ago that got a lot of attention and got Octane playing, got playlisted on Spotify and all this kind of stuff, and they kind of blew up, and then he didn't have time to do stuff with it for a couple of years. And so now they've got it moving, they've got a team and they've got whatever, and obviously he has the benefit of the facial recognition from being involved with Ice Nine and whatever, and so he's able to use that, and that's awesome. So it's just like it was nearly impossible to get everybody together. People were super busy. Mm-hmm. Other people had other projects. And at the end of the day, I had been the one writing and recording everything and all this kind of stuff. So also, I didn't expect, and it's not that anybody ever brought this to me as an issue, but I can't imagine that those 3 guys were super emotionally or creatively invested in the project either. It was a fun thing to do. We all enjoy each other's company. It was cool to start the band and see the reaction, and obviously having some facial recognition of people that have been around certainly helped at the launch and whatever. I don't discount that at all. But it was just at the end of last year, we finally played live. We finally had some proof of concept. We finally had a booking agent get interested. We started getting a couple things about, this label might want to talk, this manager might be interested, all things that are still, very fluid. Obviously nothing that's been solidified or announced or anything like that yet. Yeah. But just the more that it seems like, okay, this is actually people generally like this. I've gotten a feel for the marketing side of this. I feel pretty comfortable in my ability to run the ship. And I would like to be able to do something at the drop of a hat if we needed to. Mm-hmm. And the original lineup just unfortunately is not conducive to that. So there is absolutely no drama. It's all love. And I mean, those guys are going to continue to do way bigger shit than I'm doing with this band, until this band potentially reaches some sort of higher level, but that's going to be a long time in the making, so nobody's suffering by not being a member of Hillhaven anymore for sure. So yeah, like it was just at the time, because we didn't really know what was going to come of it. It seemed cool to have a group of dudes that, like, all knew the system and all kind of, had experience in these different areas, again, to sort of sidestep some of the pitfalls of having to show people how to do stuff and all that kind of thing. Um, and just do something fun with your friends, but doing something fun with your friends can only go so far when all of those friends have jobs.
Yeah.
Like, it just,
they got other shit.
the needs of the project become a little bit more specific at that point.
Yeah, that's awesome. And it's so funny how you literally pulled it on Jamie at the very last minute. Like, just be like, hey, learn these. Okay, why? Like, and giving him such like a close window to when he had to have it by. That's just that, like, I could just see his reaction.
That's how a lot of us have gotten gigs before. When Ricky and I toured together most recently, I had 4 days to learn like 17 songs or something like that. Like, it just happens sometimes, you know what I mean? So and also, like, a music video, you don't actually have to like know the song.
You could just like act like
convincingly kind of mime, like, just look like you know what you're doing. So, like, I don't think I think it was more like, hey, you're gonna be in a band now, and and these are the people in the band. You listen to their bands, by the way. I think that was more of the shock factor for him than having to learn to mime 3 songs on short notice. But yeah, no, he killed it, and he's one of the funniest people that I know, and he's just like everybody that is in the band and has been in the band. He's driven to make a career out of this. And I think that at this stage is probably the most important thing as far as membership is concerned, is like everybody has a career already, but they're motivated to take a little bit more control over their situation, and to have maybe a different role than they're used to having in their careers. You know what I mean? And so I think all of our interests are pretty aligned in that way now.
That's amazing, and it's just so funny, like, how it all just formed. Like, I've always wanted to know that for the longest time, and it's just hearing the story. It's funny, but it's also very like heartwarming. Like, good friends forming a band, doing stuff that you love to do. Like, I wish I could do that, but I can't.
Well, you got the photo skills. You're good.
I used to play guitar, but like my ex took my guitar and has it at his house, and I can't get that back.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Well, yeah, that's tainted material then.
It's unfortunate, but so another question about like Hillhaven's like formation in a way. This is more like a you question, but like, what made you come up with the name? Like, does it hold a special like significance? Like, why did you choose Hillhaven to be the title?
So the only mission for choosing a band name was wanting it to have a sort of neutral vibe to it. I didn't want the name to sound like, for people to hear the name and go, that's a metal band, or that's a pop punk band, or whatever. And I also didn't want the name to mislead anybody into thinking that it was going to sound one way and then be a different way or whatever. I was going through a couple of things. I kind of thought that like a single word or a compound word would be better. I don't really know why. It's probably just because other bands that I like have names like that. But the street, or the cul-de-sac that my first childhood home was on, was called Hillhaven Court. And so Hillhaven was it was 2 words, but I was like, no, we'd make it 1.
Keep it simple.
so the idea had been floating around in my head for a little bit, but I was like, I don't know, maybe not. Yeah, it's always difficult to pick a band name. Every
Oh
idea that you
yeah.
come up with tends to sound stupid,
Or it sounds like
and
similar.
much like every other band name that has probably ever been chosen by any human, it was just the one that sucked the least.
Mm.
So and so then figuring out how to make a logo for it, and okay, we can have the symmetrical H's, and then we can have the longer logo where the N kind of looks like an H, and then I have people asking me, is it Hillhaven? But
That's what I thought.
but it's like, no, it's not. It's just that OCD dictated that it look as much like the H as humanly possible. But yeah, that's. Yeah, I wish I had a better story for you, but yeah, it's just it was the one that felt the least dumb out of. I don't even remember what the other options were.
If you ever remember, you got to tell me. I'm very curious. Like coming up with names, like with me owning a publication, I remember sitting on Google Drive. I was saying to the people I was forming it with, I was like, "What do we call this?" We went through like a bunch of names, and not gonna lie, I used ChatGPT to help me come up with the name because I was like, I don't know what to
There's
name.
nothing wrong with using ChatGPT for help.
Yeah, literally, I use it for like I don't use it for like writing purposes. I use it for like ideas. I'm like, what the hell do I do? I don't know what to do. I don't want to sound like
I'll use it. I'll use it for lyrics sometimes, like not final lyrics, but
just
like
to get an idea.
uh, it might give me like one word that isn't in my typical vocabulary, and I'll be like, oh, or like I'll just be like, give me, I have 3 tabs open at all times when I'm writing lyrics. It's thesaurus.com, rhymezone.com, and ChatGPT.
AI's
It's
taking over.
those, yeah.
Yeah.
And I mean, ChatGPT I use as sparingly as
Oh
possible, but
yeah.
yeah,
Same.
sometimes it's just you can,
It's
and
useful.
not even say give me lyrics, but it's just like, here's a scenario, complain about it. And then just go through it, like, and just be like, keep going, keep going, keep going, keep going, and it'll just keep spitting out essays or whatever, and then you might find 1 or 2 words where you're like, that's a good one, all right, I can do something with
That's
that, you know
that's
what I
my
mean?
idea. That's what I'm gonna be using. Yeah, like AI.
Right.
It's the fact that it's like more popular now. Like it honestly, the shit that I've been seeing lately, like with all these people doing like AI of like real people, I'm just like, get
It's
that
pretty
away.
terrifying.
Like someone made an AI thing of me once, and I'm like, how the hell? Like that's absolutely terrifying. Like no, but
Yeah.
back to like the name thing. Like I'm very uncreative, so I'm just like keep it basic, but also like make it so it stand out to like others because like being in a publication, it's so high in demand. Like
Hmm.
I would be here forever, but it's just so it's difficult, and you're just like there's so many
Yeah.
people out there. I don't want it to sound like I'm like copying and pasting their stuff and like putting like an extra word in it, like that type of thing. So it's always good to like get into that. And I love how you had it be all personal with your name. Like you said you growing up like on that street. Like
Hmm.
that's really good and I like the meaning behind it. So, anyways, enough of me yapping about AI and all that. So, we're going to talk a little bit about Christmas Prince Red. I know we briefly talked about it before, but how was the experience for you playing alongside bands like Era, Devil Wears Prada? I think Gideon played that day, or I don't know, but Deadlands, like,
Yeah, it was, Body Snatcher was on our day. Gideon was on the second day. Yes,
see,
it was us, Deadlands, Body Snatcher, Era, Prada, AVR, I
yeah.
believe.
So, like, how did it feel? Like, how nerve wracking was it considering it was your first ever live show for Hillhaven? Like, I know we talked about it a little bit, but can you expand on?
Yeah, so I mean, obviously, especially the original lineup, like we'd all been on stage before, and stages of that size are even bigger in a lot of cases. So the idea of playing a show was not the nerve wracking part. There was a couple of things. I mean, the one is it was the first time for me that I had done that I was going to do an entire song an entire set as a frontman, not holding a guitar once. Um,
It must
not
have
really
felt
knowing what my
weird.
stage presence was going to be, not knowing what I was going to say to talk to the crowd. I swore to myself that I would have some kind of a script, and then I got up on stage and I said to the crowd, I was going to have a script, and I don't.
I remember
Um,
that.
uh, I just didn't have time. And the other thing was that we had one day to rehearse.
Oh,
And
really?
Yeah, we had one day because From Ashes to New was on an Australian tour,
Oh.
and the show was on December 13th, and they landed at 11 p.m. on December 11th.
Oh my
So
God.
we had December 12th to get all the gear in one place, get all the people in one place, play the songs together for the very first time, and figure it out.
Mm-hmm.
So there were, and as things go with bands, there were a million things that came up that had schedules get pushed back and sleep be lost and extra tasks for me and
You poor
and fires
thing.
to put out and all kinds of stuff. And so, I wound up staying overnight in Lancaster on the night of the 12th, which I was not planning on doing. So I literally, the clothes that I wore at the show were the clothes that I had on at rehearsal the day before. Because I hadn't brought anything with me.
Oh my God.
Because I wasn't planning on staying there. Um, I was planning on getting home at a much more reasonable hour and then going in fresh the next day, but that didn't happen. So, and by then, my voice was worn out and we had to pitch the songs down so that I wasn't straining as much, and I was still straining because my voice was shot. And man, I mean, it like, if people only knew everything that happened up until we got on that stage, it would be a much different picture, because so many people came up to us and like, I can't believe that was your first show. Like, that was awesome. I loved you guys. I haven't even heard you guys before. Or people coming over where they had made signs because they did know who we were and they had stuff with our lyrics on. There were multiple people that I saw singing along with me while I was on stage, and obviously all that stuff is really, really cool. But like, from my perspective, it was just like, I haven't slept in 2 days. Feel like my voice was shot.
Mm-hmm.
Like this, it did. I'll be straight up. It did not go the way that I wanted it to go. It doesn't mean that it doesn't mean that I think it went poorly. But and I don't even say this from like an egotistical standpoint. It's just like I've been doing this for a long time, and so I try to hold myself to a higher standard than what at least I personally met that night. Um, but the one silver lining on that end is that, like, all right, well, first show's going to have some hiccups, so we got that out of the way. And if me being generally pretty dissatisfied with how the show went elicited that positive of a reaction from the people who saw the show, then there's nowhere to go but up from there. You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
you have no
Um,
choice. Yeah.
right. So, if people were that stoked on a set that I wasn't very stoked on, then they'll probably love a set that I am stoked on.
Mm-hmm.
So, hopefully, anyway. Um,
Hopefully.
so yeah, I mean, we all had a really big time crunch for that show. There's a lot of logistical things that wound up getting in the way. And like, the show itself just kind of went by so quickly. And man, I was not prepared for how out of breath I was going to be.
I remember we
I,
were talking about it in the green room about it.
dude, I like, I've been playing on stage for a living for over a decade now. I have
Mm-hmm.
done plenty of vocals on stage, usually
Mm-hmm.
backup vocals, but sometimes, if the front man's sick or whatever, I start taking over other things and I start singing more than I usually do. Um, I grew up playing cover shows and switching between guitar and vocals and singing whole songs and, all kinds of stuff. And never experienced that before. I think it was just exhaustion and nerves and just not being in the best shape. And yeah, just kind of like everything in everything happening at once. And after that first song, I was like, bro, I can't catch my breath.
You were jumping
Like,
around a lot.
well, I okay, because I
Yeah.
didn't feel like I moved. Like, I know there were parts. I remember specific parts where I did jump and I was trying to get the crowd to do the same thing and all that, like, typical frontman stuff, right? But like,
Yeah.
I don't remember being like I wasn't running anywhere.
You weren't running.
You know?
You were like moving like you were kind of like speed walking a little bit. I know Ricky was being like a clown on his end over there when he.
That's his thing.
Yeah, and you guys were like almost bumping into each other at one point. Like you were moving.
Yeah, there wasn't a lot of real estate up there. We had to, when you're the opener, you have to set up in front of everybody else's stuff.
Yeah, I would have tripped over everything.
Yeah, right. So it's you have the least amount of real estate to work with, which again, something that I'm used to, even in a larger capacity. I mean, we did, when I was touring with Ricky last, we did some shows with Metallica, and it was the same thing. We had there were multiple bands that were playing after us, and we were set up in front, and we didn't have a lot of real estate to work with. You know what I mean? It's like, so even at the highest level, the opener is given the shit end of the stick. And that's just normal, so it wasn't like I was stressed out of like, I can't fucking move up here. But yeah, I don't know. I think my adrenaline was so high, but I had so little sleep and just felt underprepared and but underprepared and overprepared at the same time. Like I felt underprepared because I had spent so much time preparing that I had hurt myself basically.
That's what I do.
And so I was just so out of breath at that show. And like even my wife afterwards, she's like, "Are you okay? Like, 'cause you were having trouble up there, And I need that. I need the honest critique of, her being like, the songs didn't sound as good when you had to pitch them down. Like, you can do better than that. I know you can, And I'm like, I know. But like, as far as a first show for a new band, especially within the context of having one day or really what came down to about a few hours to play all the songs together for the first time and to set up a whole show and to have the first show be in a sold out festival hall with like 4,000 people. Like it went well. It just didn't go as well as I personally would have liked it to, but it clearly went well enough to not, we weren't booed off stage. We didn't see any negative comments after that. We didn't hear anything bad about it. It was only like it was all love that we got from it. So I can't really ask for a better response than we got. It's just being self-critical and the typical self-deprecating artist bullshit.
Yeah, but from a viewer standpoint, like, I could tell a little bit, like, you were, we were talking before you guys went on, and you were mentioning you weren't feeling, like, 100%, but, like, even then, like, even if, like, from the crowd's perspective, if, like, not a lot of people were really acknowledging that, like, something was wrong, to say the least. Like, everyone was just there having a good time. Like I said before, people were tearing up because there were a lot of people who were very excited to see you guys all together, and I asked someone in the crowd, I'm like, "Are you okay?" And then she was like, "I am just in love with this band. Like, their lyrics and, like, their song, like, it's motivated me to do so much." And I'm like, that's amazing.
That's awesome.
Like, that's great feedback. And, like, I almost started tearing
up. That's really cool to hear.
Like, I almost started fucking crying. Like, I was like, oh my god, this is, like, the sweetest thing someone could ever say. So, you guys had a really good crowd for that show, I will say. And despite the circumstances, like, I'm very proud of you guys for how just starting out, considering, like, you guys have been in other bands before, but, like, considering, like, starting out as, like, that one band and playing such a big crowd. Like, even I was telling Casey from Deadlands, I was like, this is a huge opportunity for you guys. Like, this is great hearing, like, everyone being so supportive and loving, and at the end of the day, you guys are gaining new fans, even if, like, they're like, who the hell is Hillhaven? Like, you guys gained a lot of fans, and I saw people talking to you guys at the merch table, which, like, that was great. That was really sweet. Like, how
that was, I didn't expect that to happen either. Yeah, we had a pretty good, all things considered, like, as the opener or whatever, like, we had a pretty good night at the merch table, like, both in interaction and in actual sales, so yeah, I mean, all of it. I think I subconsciously do my best to set my expectations low for things, not in terms of expectation of how I think something should sound or how I think it should go or be executed, but my expectations in terms of how other people will receive it. Mm-hmm. I try to keep them as pragmatic and overly like realistic as possible. Like, you know, statistically speaking, somebody's going to hate this. Like, be prepared to meet the guy who hates it, kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, so to have the response like that, and really, I mean, hearing that thing that you heard from whoever that was at the show is really cool. So it definitely rosies up the glasses a little bit more.
Yeah, that's sweet. And also, like, I think Jamie and I were briefly talking, wasn't it? Yeah, I think he mentioned like it was like his first time playing live in a long time.
Yeah, he had. Oh, excuse me. Apparently, I haven't slept well today either.
You gotta get some sleep,
Yeah,
dude.
he was in a band called Tides of Deception that played a whole bunch of shows with my death metal band that I mentioned before.
Mm-hmm.
And I started that band when we were in high school. You know, so back in high school, college days, our two bands were playing a lot of shows together, and we always kept in touch online and stuff. But yeah, he hadn't really done. I think he had done like one cover show a couple of years before that, just for fun. And other than that, he had just been, he works at a studio and was teaching classes, recording classes at a community college and doing live sound for some other bands and whatever. And so he hadn't played live in a long time, and he had never played to a room of that size or played with a number of bands at that level, especially not as a band that was invited to be there. We've all done the local thing where you have to sell tickets to open for some tour, and if you don't sell all the tickets, you got to pay the balance because that's what you committed to and all that kind of stuff. And that, when you're a kid, that feels like a cool thing because you're like, oh, we get to open for fucking whoever it is. But when you actually get into touring and you realize like, oh, the only reason that locals are ever put on a show is because it's not selling as well as they thought it would. So they need local bands to bring people out and to pad the ticket sales. So to be, and I really should give JB from August Burns Red, well, and all of them, but particularly JB, a shout out for that, because he agreed to put Hillhaven on that show before Hillhaven launched.
Really?
Yeah. So I started talking to him because I had texted Grant McFarland, who was the drummer with me when I was in Galactic Empire, and they had played Christmas Burns Red in 2023.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, hey, I'm trying to think of, because I always knew that I wanted there to be a show at the end of the year.
Mm-hmm.
Doing it in the middle of the year probably wasn't going to work because everyone was on tour and stuff like that. So if we could do one at the end of the year, whether it was a headliner or an opener for a good thing or whatever it was, just something to like prove that the band was real, you know?
Yeah.
And I was like, that could be a good one, and like, I don't live in Lancaster, but I am constantly there when I'm home for one reason or another. And being in Galactic Empire, that's where our home base was. So I was in Lancaster all the time. And I do know the ABR guys, or most of them, but it's it's not like we don't keep in regular touch. It's not like we're not invited to each other's, weddings and shit. You know what I mean? It's not like, it's not that kind of, it's just we're acquaintances for the most part, And so I was like, who did you guys hit up about that? I didn't realize that the band ran the festival themselves.
Yeah.
I knew that they were heavily involved in it. Obviously, it was their idea to put it on, but I figured there would be a middleman of sorts, a promoter or a booking agent or whoever, like somebody that would have to pitch the idea. But Grant was like, no, it's just JB and Brent that kind of run the business side of it, or whatever. And so I think they do have some other partners, but it doesn't matter. So yeah, he gave me his email. And I shot him an email. Was just like, hey, like I think I even said, like, I don't know if you remember me, but I was just like, I'm starting this thing, and then there's members from this band and that band, and like, here's the release plan for the whole year, and I'm really trying to find, something to put us on. And then I just thought it would be a good idea to take a shot at CBR. And he got back pretty much immediately and wanted to hop on the phone and was very interested in the project and was asking, all these different questions about what the plan was going to be. And so not only did he, very enthusiastically, of course he had to get approval from everybody else and stuff, but he was very enthusiastic about the idea of us being the opener. But he, we stayed in touch, and he was a really good, and is still a very good resource for advice and, honest opinions and, hey, I can't think of an example, but I'm trying to get something like this done. How would you go about doing this? And he's like, oh, you got to hit up either this specific person or a person like this or whatever, like, make sure you got this handled first, whatever. Like, so, and, on the band building side, he was very helpful in that as well. So very, very grateful to him for taking interest in the project from the get-go and taking a probably not the hugest risk because all things considered, it's their festival, it's their hometown, probably going to sell pretty well. There's tons of other bands on there who are worth tickets already. But typically you want your lineup to all be bands who, this band can sell this many tickets. We didn't know if we could sell any tickets. You know what I mean? Like we didn't know if there would be people coming in just to see us, or interested because they saw us on the bill with these other bands. You know what I mean? And so, basically taking a band that on paper is worth $0, and putting it on a festival like that is a very generous, real homey move. And so very fortunate to have had that connection and even just the history of like having known each other prior to that, even in a very casual capacity, was definitely a huge help. So big shout out to JB and the ABR guys, because they didn't have to do that for sure.
Oh, that's so sweet. And I love how you guys were just given that opportunity. And I find it so funny how you started off the email be like, do you remember me?
Yeah, I can't remember exactly what I said, but I might not have used those exact words, but like there definitely would have been something in there that was like just like low key reminding you where you know me from. It's
like, do you remember who I am? We've met each other. We've worked together before. Like, do you know?
Yeah, kind of that vibe.
That's so iconic.
So.
And hey, just like doing that led you to getting like that huge opportunity too, like with your connections and all that. And that's really cool though, with like Hillhaven playing fucking Christmas Burns Red. Like I am literally like, once I saw that lineup, I'm like, okay, I have to be there. And was very fortunate that Casey, she was like, hey, can you come on the road with us for this? And I'm like, absolutely. Like, are you kidding? Like, I was going in the pit, I was doing all that, like I was having the time of my life. But like that's amazing that you guys had that. That's like, I hope you guys get to play another Christmas Burns Red, hopefully.
I will do it literally anytime. Hopefully we get to be another rung up on the bill. I think it might be smart to wait until we can then be second on the show instead of being first on the show again, because that's definitely what we would be right now if we did it. But no, we're like, it's an awesome production for sure.
And I'll be there to support you guys every step of the way. Like, you and your creativity is just so absolutely like astonishing. Like, I love that. And I am all here for that. You guys are doing fucking great. But enough talking about Christmas Burns Red. I want to talk about the future of Hillhaven, if that's okay with you.
Sure.
So what can fans expect in the future? Like, well, obviously, like the main, like the elephant in the room is like, will there be more shows coming up? You don't obviously have to tell me anything. It could be like a maybe like type of thing, but will we also maybe expect like an EP or an album dropping within the next few years?
So as far as the plans for the material, that will start becoming more apparent relatively soon. And that's all I'll say about that. There is more material coming. I don't really want to give much away past that. That being said, and we absolutely intend on doing more live performances. We're working closely with our booking agent right now. The real hurdle right now is just that I'm on tour a lot this year.
Yeah.
And so we likely would not be looking at any sort of tours until maybe sometime late in the fall, or more than likely early next year, where we can start, we would be able to start planning things like that in the next, number of months. Because the other thing is that, especially since coming back from COVID, like everything gets booked so far in advance now, because the market is so saturated. Because before COVID hit, everyone was kind of taking turns. And then when all the restrictions lifted, everyone went back out again at the same time. And it's been that way ever since. So like everyone's album cycles are like, everyone's putting a record out that year. Everyone's putting a song out that day. I mean, what the fuck? We just put a song out yesterday, and Ricky's band put a song out yesterday, and Sleep Token dropped their album yesterday. Neither of our songs mean anything, because Sleep Token dropped an album yesterday.
It's not hitting the algorithm.
Yeah, exactly. And we were last year. We noticed it's pretty difficult. Songs and albums and stuff typically drop on Fridays. So we were like, well, maybe we drop it on a Wednesday or a Thursday, because we're not a big band. We're never going to be able to compete with the big bands in terms of what's trending and all that kind of stuff. Not like our stuff would wind up trending at this level anyway, but there's even less of a chance of anything kind of hitting if it's being buried by Sleep Token or somebody like that. But Spotify doesn't update its release radar and all of its algorithmic playlists and stuff, the things that actually push it to people who follow you and might like you and all that kind of stuff. The initial boost that you get does not kick in until the Friday of that week. So if you release a song on Wednesday and it doesn't push it to the algorithm, it doesn't really get a whole lot of attention. And then it tells the algorithm, even though the algorithm hasn't been pushing it, it tells the algorithm, oh, well, hey, people aren't really responding to this. So then the algorithm, when it gets it, doesn't push it as hard. So it's this thing where it's like, basically, if you don't release a song on Friday, fuck you. That's effectively what it is. And so now, we're like, okay, well, this year we got to just do Fridays. But everyone is releasing music all at once, all at the same time. I literally texted Ricky because our song went on test drive on Octane on May 8th, and we will see if it wins the test drive, if it winds up in rotation or not. Ricky's band got premiered on Octane that day, which means premiere means you're in rotation for that month, and which is awesome. I'm super happy for them. But I was like, I texted Ricky and I was like, please let me know when your next song is going to be so that I can make sure that we don't overlap again.
Oh, no.
And not that, I certainly don't blame him or anybody for neither of us would have thought about that. You know what I mean? But yeah, so it's just, there's a lot of stuff happening at once. There's a lot of competition. There's a lot of, I think I've already said, just things happening all at once. And so it's difficult to try to cut through the noise with that. So that's what makes, being any band, it's an uphill battle, because there's just so much, the music market was already so saturated, but now it's even more so. And so when it comes to touring, it's the same thing. You got to book even further in advance, because everyone needs a bus, everyone needs gear, everyone needs people, everyone whatever, all of the millions of things that go into making a tour, especially a bigger tour, happen, is they're all in high demand all the time.
Oh yeah.
Prices for everything have skyrocketed, and they're just going to keep going up now, especially. But so we're actively working on the return to the stage, as it were, and it's not for lack of interest or lack of trying or anything like that. It's just I'm not there right now. We're doing our best to plan for, late this year, and then really take a look at what's going on next year. And there's some pretty cool irons in the fire right now that I'm very hopeful at least one of them will wind up with us being on one of these tours. There's like a couple in particular that I'm super excited about and pretty hopeful for. So, but obviously I can't really give any details beyond that.
How dare you not give details? I'm kidding. But yeah, that's wild. Good for you though. Like, and it's crazy the fact, like, with the algorithm, I think the message of all of this is just fuck the algorithm, literally.
You want to, yeah, like, you can have the attitude, but you can't have that approach. Like, it's like, yeah, we all hate the algorithm, but we need it.
We need it.
Otherwise, no one sees our shit.
Literally, like, even back to, like, publication stuff, like, so many other things going on, so many other outlets dropping the same news posts, all that. And it's just so funny how different social media platforms have, like, different reaches. Like, our TikTok gets a lot more engagement than Instagram. Like, it's just crazy how there's multiple different algorithms per social media.
We're the exact opposite. We have pretty decent engagement on Instagram, and YouTube's doing pretty well. TikTok is like, we might as well be just fucking dead in the water. That platform hates us. That algorithm, whatever robot is running TikTok, does not want people to hear Hillhaven at all.
I think they're just rebelling. Maybe they're like, all right, we don't want this band. Okay. But yeah, different algorithms. It's so crazy to me. And I'm just like, it's the same thing. Why isn't it getting any sort of engagement? It's like the same thing. And a lot of people use TikTok rather than Instagram. But with Instagram, especially with Reels now, like all that.
It's got to be real. It's got to be a reel. Yeah, it's either a reel, or if it is a photo post, it's got to be a carousel post. There has to be like 5 or more photos in order for the algorithm to push different people, because it's all about what keeps them on the platform for longer.
Yeah, and sometimes too with like reels, it has to be like shorter clips, because not trying to insult people, but sometimes people's attention spans kind of just vanished.
No, yeah, it's not an insult. It's a fact. Like, unless you have something that really, really hooks somebody in, if it lasts more than 30 seconds, you've lost them.
Yeah, it's a pain. It's a pain, big time. But yeah, anyways, we're gonna go into the goofy questions that I've prepared.
Okay.
Are you ready?
Go for it. I can't promise I'll have good answers, but go for it.
They're funny. They're pretty good. Well, I'll let you be the judge. All right. So, considering you play instruments, if your guitar or whatever other instrument you play was able to speak and talk to you, what would they be saying to you? Would it be a good thing or a bad thing?
That would highly depend on if the instrument wants to be what it is. Because if you're talking, like, you can go from like a cartoon or Disney perspective of like, the guitar that's sitting in the room unplayed is sad because it's not being played and it's supposed to be. Or you can go the route of like, if this is just a sentient thing that can't move and it's a drum kit, like, your whole existence is just having the shit beaten out of you all the time, and there's nothing you can do about it. So I imagine the words would be ow. Yeah, that's where my brain goes. It's like, I don't necessarily, like, I've never run a pick across my face a million fucking times to see what it feels like, but I can't imagine it would be very pleasant. So I don't really think an instrument would enjoy being alive at all.
Honestly, it's a good thing I asked that question. It was supposed to be a question for another interview, but I had to cut it. But that's I can imagine how the instruments would be like, "Stop it! You're hurting me! How dare you evolve?" Like that. I would not enjoy that if I was the instrument.
Yeah.
Next question: were there any funny moments that happened while you were about to go on Christmas Burns Ride, or even when you're rehearsing or recording stuff? Like, any funny things you have?
Not really, just stressful. Just
brain rot crush.
Because having only one day of rehearsals and and most of the people, because we used a lot of people from Ash's crew as well. So having everyone be super jet lagged and super tired And yeah, there's not really a lot of funny things, just a lot of stressful things.
I remember when you guys were about to take the stage for Christmas Burns Red, I was getting ready to go onto the stage, and then I pulled the curtain that was there, and I jump scared and scared the shit out of Ricky, and he scared the shit out of me, so we both, like, let out, like, a little, like, oh, oh. And then I'm just like, I'm sorry, sir. I'm trying to, like, figure out where I'm supposed to be. So
that was our whole day, figuring out where we were supposed to be.
Yeah, and I texted you. I was like, how do I get to the green room? Because, like, no one, me and the Deadlands people had no idea.
Tell you what, biggest adjustment of being an opener when all of us have been working for headliners for all these years, it's like, oh, we have no bus. We have no dressing room. We have no anywhere. Like, there's no catering. There's no buyout budget. There's just a table in a room of tables with some snacks on it, you know, and that's not talking shit on the people that organize CBR. That's just what opener life is, you know. So definitely a rude awakening for some of us.
Yeah, I was so confused and I kind of got lost. And you're like, it's behind the black curtain. I'm like, there's multiple black curtains.
Yeah, there's black drape everywhere. Yeah.
Yeah, then I went into the wrong area. I'm like, I don't think this is where I'm supposed to be, so I'll just go back to where I was. And then I remember, I was going there to get a snack, and none of the Deadlands crew, I don't think we really had any of the snacks, but I think one of the other bands took all of our snacks that were on the table.
Sounds about right, yeah.
And I was like, what? I was like, I wanted a granola bar, but they all vanished. And, like, Casey and CJ, they're like, we didn't touch them. And I'm like, well, that's great. I was like, who do I gotta hunt down now?
Yeah, go find your Nutri-Grain bar, yeah. Yep. That's all standard opener life, yep.
I say we should, like, riot. Just kidding.
Yeah, you could riot, you just won't get asked on the next tour.
In my mind, I'll be like, ahem.
Yeah, it's all stuff you just log away for when somebody's opening for you.
Literally. All right. This question is honestly my favorite in a way, and I'm curious on what you're gonna say. So, considering you've done a cover of Owl City's Fireflies, if Hillhaven were forced to do a song completely out of your usual style, like, what song would be the funniest choice to cover?
Funniest?
Or just anything. Like, it could even be like a guilty pleasure song.
Well, I mean, the Owl City was definitely a guilty pleasure.
Fireflies.
I mean, I love "Fix You" by Coldplay. I have an idea for a cover that would work, but the chord progression is a lot like "This Time Tomorrow," so it would probably just wind up sounding like "This Time Tomorrow." You know, I have a whole list. Hold on. Not of like guilty pleasure songs necessarily, but like songs that
like songs that like is a little different than what you usually do. That's funny.
I'm just trying to pick the best one. Oh, I would fuck up "Baby One More Time." I love that fucking song. I think it would be sick with a rock cover. I don't exactly know how I would do it, but... Oh, and then I also have "Everywhere" by Michelle Branch. That's a good one. Yeah. Those hooks fucking slap, dude. They'd be sick with like heavy guitars under them and stuff.
My loneliness is killing me.
You're not going to get me to start singing along with you, but
You're thinking it, though. You're thinking it.
Of course. Yeah. I know what comes next. Yeah.
Of course. Like, it's just the songs that just run through your mind. Like, a band that I interviewed recently, they, well, I didn't interview, I was there, but, one of their warm-up songs was Lady Gaga's Bad Romance. And I'm just like, that does not seem like your type of, like, style, but okay.
No, I love when people do, especially when metal bands have changeover music that isn't metal. I love that because, like, if you're seeing a metal band, you're probably seeing a whole metal show, in which case it's like several hours of really loud, really heavy music. So when the changeover is like fucking Lorna Shore or, you know, Pantera or anything, like, it's just like, dude, like, will you fucking chill for a second? Like, can you just like put on like elevator music for a little bit so that we can all like bring our fucking like energy down a little bit before the next band, and we can actually like hear each other while we talk and whatever. This is all old man shit that's developed in the last 10 years. But yeah, I can't stand like, I mean, I almost never go to shows anymore unless I'm playing them or I know somebody. But like I never really liked like being at the barricade for 4 hours and just never being able to hear anything. Like, I never really enjoyed that experience. So yeah, I'm all about it when a band puts on fucking Gaga or Britney or anything, any kind of just normal, like, fucking give me top 10 radio jam between bands. I'm stoked.
Yeah, what was it? I recently saw Fame on Fire when they played in New York, and during their intermission before they went on stage, it was literally just like throwbacks, early 2000s, like cartoon theme songs. So you had like the
I
SpongeBob
love it.
theme, you had Dora, and I was just like, where are we? I was like, where are we right now? And it's just like, I like when
That's
bands do
perfect
that.
though. It's nostalgic. Everyone in there knows what the songs are. It's like, it's a little bit funny, like, and you're like, you know, you don't have to like think about it so much.
Yeah, the amount of brain cells I lost that day, and seeing how the people who go in the mosh pits for those shows, like, they were just literally just crowd killing the SpongeBob, Dora, the Wonder Pets, and I'm just like, okay. Like, the stupid things that
More
people
power
do.
to them, man.
And it's just funny though, because like there's like less engagement when the band actually goes on, but during the intermission, that's when everyone's like all like hyper and crazy. Like, that's I love every time when bands do that, and like the crowd is just like, oh my god, and screaming. That's
Yeah.
great. But anyways, I have one more question. It's a serious question before I let you go. I
Okay.
feel bad. I've been holding you hostage for like over an hour.
No, that's
So,
okay. That's all right. I planned on it.
thank you for making the time. So, if you had a message to deliver to fans or upcoming musicians, what would it be?
I mean, the usual question that the usual answer that I have for this question or a similar question is just be open to things, because most of us start, and I do recognize there's a little bit of hypocrisy in here, in that this is an interview about me starting my own band. But most of us get into this industry, or decide that we want to get into this industry, and the idea that we have is, I'm going to start a band. We are going to write songs that people love. That band will get signed. That band will get famous. That will be my life. Like, that's the goal, right? And that's rarely how it happens. In terms of getting an actual career, right? And just getting signed does not mean you have a career. Just getting on a tour does not mean you have a career. You're still eating shit for a while. So, you know, if 16-year-old long hair camo short wearing Chris knew that his career in the music industry would be playing for a metalcore band, playing for a Star Wars band, playing for another metalcore band that also has masks and horror movie themes, and then playing for another band with silly costumes and stuff, and then deciding at 32 that you're going to start your own band again, and it's going to be a radio rock metalcore blend. That version of Chris would have an aneurysm on the spot. Would not be happy about any of that news. So, you know, if you really want to have, you know, to have a job, to make a livelihood in music, like, you got to be more open to different possibilities. You have to be aware of what's going on around you. Be as fast of a learner as you possibly can. And when an opportunity comes your way, just say yes, especially early on. Later, you can get a little bit more choosy about it. But just, you know, try to take as many opportunities, doing whatever you can, whenever you can, because it could wind up leading closer to where you were hoping it would one day be. That's what I got.
That deserves a round of applause. That was beautifully said, Chris. And you had long hair.
Oh yeah, like about your length.
I would not have
Mhm.
imagined that.
I know. I had long hair, and then I had just regular old short hair for a while after I cut that, and then it was 2020. It was 2021. Or it might have been late 2020, but I think. Oh yeah. Okay, late 2020. I think late 2020 is when I shaved it.
It suits you though.
Yeah, because during the pandemic, I was so bored, and I was like, let's let the kids dye my hair, and so
Oh no.
so we dyed my hair purple, but my hair is naturally like closer to brown, um, and which like obviously looking at this, but like depending on how long the hair on my head is, it's like somewhere between blonde and brown, and so in order to dye it any kind of a color, we had to bleach it, and the bleach just I could feel it just like singeing my scalp right here,
It
and
sucks.
and then after it grew back, like it still looked okay, but I could feel that right here just wasn't the way that it was before. And I was like, I have enough insecurities without worrying about my hair falling out, so I'm just getting rid of it. And it has been liberating because I look exactly the same from here up no matter what.
You gotta like send me pictures. I want to see how like old Chris Kelly.
It'll take me just as long to find as you would. I'm not active really on Instagram so much anymore. So just but all the pictures are still on there. Just scroll.
Oh no.
Just
Oh
go.
no.
You'll find them. You'll find them.
I'm definitely gonna make a meme out of it, but that's honestly great.
Yeah.
But to end things off though, thank you so much for making the time and sitting down with us today. It really means a lot, and I'm excited to hear what you guys have planned in the future. And I'm looking forward to seeing the next chapter of Hillhaven and what you guys have planned. And if you ever need a photographer, you know who to, you know.
I got you.
But yeah, thank you so much.